TGIF, everybody. Happy Friday to you. High school football, first round of the playoffs. We had some games last night, but we'll have a lot more tonight as the official, really the first day of the high school playoff starts tonight. We'll go back through some scores a little bit later on from last night with some pretty good games out there for a Thursday. Some games got moved around in fear of heavy rain. What a joke around that, right? Heavy rain in Alabama. Does anybody know what that looks like? But there was a tropical storm hurricane in the Gulf. They thought it was going to move closer. That thing's taken an immediate turn to the west, so it doesn't look like it's going to affect us at all. So you and I will be heading down to Spanish Fort tonight for Benjamin Russell and Spanish Fort. And I've been a fun trip for us ever to go down there. Maybe it'll be a little bit different, but Spanish Fort was a good football team, and we'll talk about that game a little bit later on as well. Auburn quarterback situation. We'll also talk about real quick first-round playoff matchups, some of note, just kind of give our thoughts on that. But here on this Friday morning, as we get rolling, we'll dive back into a little bit of Auburn football. They don't play tomorrow. No football, thank goodness. I feel relieved. I don't have to worry about how we're going to figure out a way to lose a game on Saturday, so I can watch some other teams crash and burn. But I guess the thing is of note right now is, will we see Peyton Thorne anymore at Auburn? I told you this, and I'll shut up here in just a second, Randy. But I told you this a couple of weeks ago, or last week actually. I'm not blaming Peyton Thorne anymore. I'm tired of everything going, and I'm just as guilty as anybody. Some of the stuff that we've heard, I'm first of all, I'm disgusted if it's all true. I'm sure all of it's not true, but I'm sure there's a small part that is. It's not all his fault, and maybe not a lot of it his fault. So, I hate it for him. And I hope they can get some things figured out at Auburn, not just this year, but for moving forward, because it doesn't sound real good, some of the things that we're being told.
Well, everything's based off of leadership. And if the leadership issues that I hear is true, then they'll all rear their ugly head, and we'll all see how this plays out in the next year maybe, because at the most you've got one more year for Hugh Freeze to show that he's got this thing moving in a positive direction, because Auburn fans can't sit there more than 3 years and stomach what we're getting this year, especially in year two. We've never sat back and allowed something like this to happen. We've always had excuses that we're in a rebuilding project. But at a certain point, you got to go. There's a lot of smoke around the fire that's being talked from the head coach down. So we'll see how that plays out. I've said this to you a number of times. When you're the head coach and you hire staff, you hire coordinators, and they don't stay around for very long with you, then you have nobody to blame but yourself or great success. Go back to Nick Saban. He lost a lot of great staff members because of success. Those coordinators went on to be head coaches at other schools, namely Kirby Smart and some others. Steve Sarkisian, we can keep going down the list, Brett. But at Auburn, it's not because they're leaving for a tremendous opportunity. Now, I want to preface what I'm saying with that, because I'm going somewhere here. I think Derek Nix is going to be gone after this year. I think he'll end up getting the head coaching job at Southern Miss, where he was one of the best players in school history. I wish him nothing but the best if that's the way that plays out, Brett. And if it is, you won't necessarily have the storyline that Hugh Freeze threw another offensive coordinator under the bus and didn't take responsibility for the offensive output that we got this year. There won't need to be that excuse. But I think all of us know right now, watching on Saturday and being around Gus Malzahn and the way that these things work out when you've got a head coach that's an offensive-minded guy, when he changes and says, I'm the CEO, no, that's not the reason I'm here. I want to call plays. I want to be involved. I think I can fix the offensive woes. I think we all know that Hugh Freeze is the one calling these plays, and he's at the helm of this offense. And so I'm with you. The further I get away from this, the more that I don't want to blame the quarterback in the play of some of the players. I think all of the responsibility lies with the guy that's paid $6 to $8 million a year. And if he can't provide a very good product for Auburn football, and we can really point to anything outside of recruiting now, Brett, myself, no Auburn fan is denying what a tremendous job he's doing recruiting. But it doesn't matter how good you recruit if you don't win football games. Vandy's proof of that. I don't think Vandy's got a better grouping of players than anybody else in the SEC. They're probably dead last, wouldn't you guess? If you were to go down and look 4, 5, 3 stars, let everybody know the top talent in the conference. My guess is Vandy is dead last, and they came to Jordan-Hare and held us to 7 points on a Rivaldo Fairweather shoestring catch and a tremendous effort to get into the end zone. That's where we are. So you can have all the Bows and Joes in the world. If you can't coach them up and develop them, it's a problem. So, Brett, I'll leave it at that. Until more comes out on questionable things that are going on around that program, I'll stay away from it. I think it's going to play its way out anyway.
Well, I do too, but I just want to know that he's giving max effort. I don't feel like he is, just from what I'm hearing. And especially with a team that's won 3 football games. If you had everything rolling and you were 7-1 on the season or 8-1 on the season, however many dang games we got left, we got 3, right? So if you were at that situation, then I'd give somebody a pass for going maybe and taking a day here and there. Even at that point, though, you would think you would be putting max effort in during the season because you would be in a playoff situation and you'd have a chance to compete for a national title. Has he mailed it in at 3-6? Is that what he's done? And he's going to experiment the rest of the way out and figure out what he wants to do moving forward into next year? I don't know. I just don't feel like we're getting max effort. It's like talking to your child when they're struggling in a subject in school, and you sit down with them and you go, are you putting 100% into this? Are you doing everything you can to make the best grade possible? And if you are, and you're still not cutting the mustard, I can't really get on to you for that because you're doing everything you can. But if you're making a bad grade and it's because you're not hitting a lick at a stick and you're not looking at anything and you just go in there and you on hope think you're going to make a good grade, then I'm gonna ream you out a little bit because you're not putting forth max effort. So, look, it's his team. This administration hired him. I hope it's not another scam artist. I don't hope it is. I hope that he gets things turned around. I do. I don't see a product that looks like it's giving max effort. And Cole Kublik said it this past week, and I partially agree with him when he said I don't think Auburn knows how to win at football, and that's how to. It doesn't look cohesive. We've been in every game, but it just seems like there's no continuity. There's no pizzazz. There's no rhyme or reason for why things go the way they go. And that all goes back to the head guy. And if he's tuned out or if his attention's in other places and he's not going to meetings and he's not involved, and I know he can dictate who does what. But if I'm 3-6, my nose is in everything. And I'm trying to get everything pulled back into center and figure out how we can get this thing going in the right direction. I'm not sure that's going on.
Well, I feel like it's a broken record, but I'm going to say it. What's our identity? I don't know what our identity is on offense. I still don't. Are we a tough, hard-nosed running team that's going to rush the football 65% of the time and try to hit you over the top? That's what we heard from Gus Malzahn. I never sensed that identity was what he bought into. I thought he every year tried to change who we were, even in times that he didn't necessarily have to. And I'm not throwing Gus Malzahn under the bus at all in some of these questionable things that we got going on here. I think from a personality, work, work effort, all of those things. Gus Malzahn was outstanding. So that has nothing to do. But I do feel like we're getting sold a bill of goods that is what we got sold there from an offensive-minded coordinator that seems to not have the answers right now. Maybe we do need to just buy into a rebuilding project, but I don't want to sit back and watch it too long. And then you end up in a situation where you're a decade into the L's. And right now I've got my questions. I'll leave it at that until things play their way out. It is what it is, but it's not a good product. And thank the Lord, Auburn basketball is back on the court tomorrow night against Houston. What a ball game that's going to be. We've at least got that, my friend, that we can look forward to. It's no longer football on Saturday. If we got a basketball game, that's what I'm tuning into.
Yeah, you and everybody else, I think, that wears orange and blue. So we'll talk more about that into the week. We'll see as they get back.
I do think Walker White gets the nod. I think that you'll start seeing he and Hank Brown get some snaps. I don't know how much more Peyton Thorne you're going to see. It's not necessarily all his fault, but at this point, Brett, you may as well throw all of those freshmen out there. Don't hit the number that takes away their red shirt, but throw them out there as much as you can. I think Bryce Cain's got one more game that he can play. He's already been involved in 2, so you don't want to hit that 4 number. So he'll probably play against La Monroe and any other players that are right there on the edge of getting playing time. Why not give them a chance at this point? I do agree with him on that. Let's see if Walker White can play. And if you can't, let's know it going into the season as a coaching staff. And, yeah, you can watch it in practice, but a practice player and a game player a lot of times are 2 totally different people. So I don't know about you, but I'm applauding any opportunity we have to see some of these younger guys out there on the field.
Yeah, everybody is. I think that's what we've been asking for. Really, I said if you come back out of the bye week of Missouri, before Missouri, after if you lose that game, then it don't matter anymore. But he rode this thing on out a few more weeks, and here we are sitting where we are. I would have gone ahead and tried somebody different the rest of the way out at that point. But again, I just want to preface everybody, it's not all Peyton Thorne's fault. Okay, let's just go ahead and make that clear. And I'm calling myself out on that. I was a little bit unfair with my criticism. Might be a little bit over the top with him because he can only deal with what he's dealing with, and we all don't know what the situation is. We can assume we know. We can assume that everything is being explained to him fully, and then we see a product during the game that looks like it's confusion. Well, there's a reason there's confusion. And Peyton Thorne's bitten his tongue several times, if you'll remember, during press conferences saying, well, I'm not going to go into that, because he doesn't want to throw somebody under the bus, and he doesn't want to make it look like he's got sour grapes, so he just decides to stay mum and take the criticism. But he doesn't have a coach that will defend him. He doesn't have a coach that comes out and defends players. We know that. He is quick to pass the blame. Well, we've gone over that, and I don't know why that play was called. I mean, that is just prototypical of what we're used to hearing from you Freeze on post-game press conferences. So I'm not blaming Peyton Thorne anymore. He may make a ton of mistakes, and I'm not saying he's completely blame-free, but I'm not putting it all on him. Not anymore. So we'll talk about that more next week. We'll see how the reps go in practice, and we'll see who is getting majority of reps with the ones, and we'll probably know way before the game next Saturday. All right, last night, playoff results. High school football is underway. Hoover went to Fairhope, or I believe Fairhope went up to Hoover, and Hoover won 35-10. Saraland over Chelsea 42-3. Man, I'm not surprised by that. Saraland is look, they were a play away from winning it last year. They got the quarterback back and KJ Lacey, so wouldn't be surprised. Here's a shocker. Not really a shocker, but maybe a little bit. Vestavia knocks off Mary Montgomery in Mobile 42-21.
I told you that. I told you that earlier in the week, Brett. You watch these scores second half of the season for Vestavia, they've gotten better. And
right.
that quality of opponent that they have throughout the year, including Carver in week 1, that we saw that to start things off in the kickoff classic.
Well, they got thrashed.
They have played one heck of a schedule, and as the season's moved on, they've got better and better. I think they've got one of the better coaches here in the state of Alabama. So I'm not overly surprised with that. Southern part of the state's not holding suit when it comes to these big-time games outside of Saraland. Now, you and I got to go down there tonight. And in 6A football, Saraland, Spanish Fort, some of those squads, St. Paul's really good this year. I think they'll stand a chance to compete for a title there in 6A.
All right, just a couple more. St. Michael's destroyed Hanley. That's Phillip Rivers, 63-40. Last year it was reverse of that. I think it was Hanley scoring 60-something and them scoring 40. So the favor was returned 5-1 big over AHSAA, 66-30. A few other scores. We'll go ahead and get to the schedule for this coming up Friday or today. I don't guess Friday's coming up when we're in it, right? So we'll start in 7A. Bob Jones will go to Auburn. That won't be that'll be a blowout. Enterprise will go all the way to. I want you to think about this. Enterprise has got to go all the way to Austin tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, this 7A travel deal is a nightmare. And next year,
not much worse than what we're doing, Brett.
No, but listen, next year, the Huntsville region of 7A crosses over with the Mobile region. So you talk about total extremes of the state.
That's a travel, and look, I've had questions. How in the world do we go to Mobile week 1? I said, well, that's just been the matchup of the regions and how this state lays out from a 6 and 7A standpoint. I don't think we'll see any changes at the top. It's just too big of a drastic difference between 1,100 students at the top of 6A all the way up to 2,400 now with Hoover and Auburn High School. So that's a massive difference in 7A. I mean, you got double the students. Over double the students there. So I don't think you can change it. It's unfortunate. And there's a lot of people out there that love to complain about travel and why are we matched up here. And there's a good explanation for that, but not one that everybody wants to hear. I can tell you that.
Phoenix City Phoenix City at James Clemens. So, yeah, they got to make that trip because they finished third in the region. That's interesting. Hewitt Trustful will go down to Baker. That's 2 8-2 teams. That could be a really good football game.
Hewitt Trustful playing some of the best football in the state right now, Brett.
Yeah.
We'll see if that holds up tonight.
Right.
But I think they've got – if they keep playing the scores that I watch with them, they got a special thing going. Now, they never seem to get over the hump because there's some massive teams up there at the top. But this is one of the better Hewitt Trustful teams on both sides of the football that we've seen in the last. And that's saying something because they're always really good.
Right. I'm going to run through some matchups. You just tell me which one stands out to you. Wetumpka will go to McAdory. Ben Russell will be at Spanish Fort. Obviously, will be at that one. Percy Julian will be at Hueytown. St. Paul's will travel to Helena. That could be interesting there.
That's a great football game right there. We've seen Helena this year. Very physical on both sides of the football. St. Paul's lost late last week against Spanish Fort. Looked like they were going to hold that 2 seed all year, but lost the last week of the season. The only other loss for St. Paul's was a 19-14 loss to Saraland earlier in the year. So St. Paul's got one of the best players in the state in next year's class. Anthony Jones, big defensive players, also playing on the offensive side of the ball for St. Paul's. That's one of the better games in the state this week.
Yeah, one more in 6A and we'll move on. Athens 8-2 will go to Homewood 8-2. That could be a fun football game there for sure. All right, in 5A, UMS Wright will go to Demopolis. You'll remember UMS Wright doing what they did to Clay Central last year in the first round. Same record, 4-6. They were 4-6 last year. Went on the road and beat Central Clay. It was undefeated. They got to go to Demopolis 7-3. That's a winnable game for Terry Curtis.
Well, it's a great football community in Demopolis. They really support. You and I have had the good fortune of going over there a couple of times.
Right.
and calling games. I've always been really impressed with their fan support. They got one of the better running backs in the state at Demopolis, and Keyshawn Rouser. I
Right.
just gave him the West Alabama Athlete of the Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor on our AHSAA side, and he had 330 yards rushing with 4 touchdowns this past week. He's really good, really big and physical, Brett. They kind of play, I mean, at least all I've known about Demopolis over the years, including calling a state championship game with you where they had the 5A player of the year at running back.
Right.
Thing I know about them is if they've got a big bull back there at running back and they can play physical football, it's kind of what that community is built around. So that's what UMS Wright's known for, too. That's a great football game.
Looking forward to that one. Elmore County will go to Andalusia. Hey, Elmore County sitting there at 7-2 on the season, taking on a 6-4 Andalusia team. We know what Kyle Caldwell's been doing at Elmore County since he arrived. Be a big game for them tonight, see if they take that next step. Mo said we should have gone fishing in Mobile like we did last time we were at Spanish Fort. Mose, hey, look, I had nothing but waiting on you to call me. And he said, of course not Randy. He said, everybody else but you, Randy, it would have been welcome to go fishing because he didn't want to put you through that misery. So
no, last time I went out on a deep sea trek with you after a long, brutal night before, and I won't say names, but we've got a friend group that if you take them down to Venice and it's
Right.
all access bar in there, you better bring a different stomach than what I usually carry around with me. And then Brett and them, they love it so much they want to wake up 3:30 in the morning and go get on a boat and ride out 100 miles.
Or
out
just don't go to bed. Or just don't go to bed and get on a boat. Doesn't matter. So.
Yeah, there's a million other things I could come up with I'd rather do than that.
All right, some other ones. You fall at Beauregard. That's 2 5-5 teams. Let's see who else. Greenville will go to Central Clay now after all that forfeit stuff that went on and teams. I think it was Charles Henderson that kind of screwed all that up and had to forfeit. Ardmore is 8-2. They'll go to Ramsey 6-3. That could be interesting.
Ramsey's turned it around, Brett. Yep. Ramsey played real poor football at the early part of the year, and they have got things going. They got a great running back, one of the best running backs in the state. Watch out, Ramsey. I know that at the first of the year, we're like, oh, man, this is a major step back for that Ramsey football team. No, closing out the season, I think, did they win 5 or 6 in a row?
I think they won 5 in a row.
5 in a row. Heading into the playoffs. Great school. You've been up there this year to cover. Yep. Great coach, just good people, and a great football program.
Poor Hope will have to travel to Montgomery Catholic. So
whoever draws that one this year outside of Central Clay and maybe a couple others just going to get drilled. That's top to bottom one of the best programs in the state. They've built something over there that, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, Brett. I think the school's in good shape.
Why would it? They've got the longest regular season winning streak going right now, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon.
I agree with you. Kirk Johnson at coach. They got one of the best coaches in the state, too.
Let's see. Mo said he's surprised at the Vestavia Hills game last night. He said he thought they were really, really good and controlled Mary Montgomery. Yep, we talked about that just a minute ago. All right, let's dive up into 4A. Let's hit a few of these. How about the Tallahassee Tigers hosting Mobile Christian tonight? How about that turnaround? 1 win last year. They're 7-2 this year. L.A. O'Neill.
L.A. O'Neill, get the right leader in place, get everybody buying in. You have a classification jump from 5A down to 4A. Brett, that's a big key part of this whole thing, too. You get out of a region that you're really struggling to win any football games. You drop down into 4A. Now you're one of the big dogs at the top of the classification and enrollment. Tallahassee's always been great in just about every sport I've known growing up in this area. And L.A. O'Neill's going to get the Bows and the Joes around that region to find their way to Tallahassee High School. And you can like it or dislike it, but that's how high school football is here in this state. You'll find a way to get your kids in the programs you want to be a part of, and he'll build something there in Tallahassee.
Another school that drew a short straw. Bullitt County's got to go to Jackson. That ain't gonna be pretty. Not
Probably the two programs that will be the biggest shock if they are knocked off in this playoff run is Montgomery Catholic and Jackson. I do. Right. I think the separation with those two and the number 2 team in both of those classes is tremendous. Right. Doesn't mean Central Clay or somebody can't jump up there and get Montgomery Catholic, but it's going to take a heck of an outing for them to do it. So I'm with you, Brett. There's not many teams top to bottom. Jackson's probably the most talented team if you take out enrollment. If you put all of those variables into play, they're the most loaded. Talented team top to bottom.
They're loaded. I'd like to see Jackson and Montgomery Catholic play.
Oh, it'd be a great
football game. All right, 3A. How about this? Dable is 3-7.
Yeah.
And they made the playoffs. They got to play Montgomery Academy, who's 9-1 in a.
Well, we did it a few years ago, and we went up to Hillcrest, and we got our doors blown completely off up there. So sometimes you can win 3 or 4 football games to sneak your way into the playoffs. There's a reason you didn't win 3 or 4 football games, and I rode up Tuscaloosa with you that night, and I witnessed.
Man,
I mean, we tried our best to run that clock as fast as we could, some kind of bone or some kind of veer or some kind of wing T formation that we went out there in. And after a certain amount of time, Brian Robinson finally took it to us that night. But, yeah, I feel for those teams who win 3 or 4 football games have to travel 4 hours to go get what.
They don't have to travel that far, though. They just got to go to Montgomery, so that's not a bad trip for Dable.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm talking about us.
Yeah, you're talking about when we had to do it.
Yeah, we got a 2.5 hour trip over to Tuscaloosa to get whooped.
All right, a few more in 3A. Obviously, Glenwood comes over from AHSAA. They go 9-0. They'll host Alabama Christian at 6-4. Could be a good football game there. What about Beulah at 6-4? They've got to go to Houston Academy 9-1. But how about Beulah winning 6 football games? Really kind of turning their program around. Let's see. Piedmont is undefeated again. They'll host Collinsville. That's a 7-3 Collinsville team there. Mars Hill's 9-1. They'll host Midfield. There was another one I wanted to highlight. Thomasville, obviously, 10-0. They'll host Excel, but T.R. Miller, that's it. Thorsby will have to go to T.R. Miller. I'm sorry. T.R. Miller, it's theirs to lose in 3A, in my opinion.
I agree with you. And this 2A bracket in our local communities, a really big one, starting with Horseshoe Bend. You just brought up a team in Beulah that gets to 6-4 and makes the playoffs. Same for Horseshoe Bend, Brett. I know you're proud for Jeremy and that program to get to those 6 wins. You knew they had a really tremendous back there in Braxton Wilson. They've been able to ride him and put all the pieces around to have a winning season and make it into the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and I was about to just talk about them. They're 6-4. They'll go to Providence Christian. That's 8-2. Good football team. They got to travel to tonight, but getting into a playoff situation where they're the 3rd seed in their region, and it was a really, really close there from them almost getting that number 2 seed and hosting a playoff game, which would have been unreal. Also in 2A, Reeltown, man, how do you sleep on Reeltown? Cottonwood's 10-0. They'll host Lynette, but Reeltown, that lone loss came all the way back in week 1 when they played T.R. Miller in the kickoff classic in Montgomery. They got to host Houston County, but Highland Home's 10-0. Look like Reeltown and Highland Home are on a collision course again in South Alabama to see who can make it to Birmingham. So we'll see. Cottonwood also will have something to say about that at 10-0. Winston County is 10-0. Pisgah is 9-1. Those are all really good football teams. I just reeled off 5 or 6 teams that could win it. So it just depends on the draw and who you got to play and who you got to go through to get there.
As we close it out, every year there's a 1 and a 4 that you and I look at and say, how in the world did that happen? But it happens, and it happens every year. It's kind of like that 5 and 12 matchup in the NCAA tournaments that you can always guess that one of those 12 seeds is going to win. In high school football, there's always a 1 and a 4 that seems to be a shocker in week 1. And so tonight's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to our game, Brett. We'll be on the road starting about lunch today. You'll hang out and handle Auburn Blitz with Andy today. I'll go ahead and get on the road, and we'll be down at Spanish Fort for the 5th time We're 0-4 down there. We've had some heartbreakers, but the last time we went down there, they drummed us 38-0. I look at the matchup. I think it's a pretty good matchup for us. This is a team in Spanish Fort that really doesn't throw the football much at all. They've got a quarterback that's rushed for 600 yards, and they got a running back there in the backfield that's rushed for 900. So most of their damage offensively comes on the ground, but that's not where their bread's buttered. It's buttered on the defensive side of the ball. They got Burkhalter over there that's a massive defensive prospect, about 6'4", 225, comes into the ball game with 125 tackles, 8 of those coming tackles for loss. He's a really good football player. But I don't go into the matchup thinking that we don't stand a chance. Just got to find a way, I think, to get to 20 points. I think that's the magic number for Benjamin Russell tonight. If they can find a way to get to 20, I think we got a chance to win this one. I'm not going down there with no hopes at all. I can tell you that.
Right. All right. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Let me finish 1A. Let me get a couple more teams in. Got to do with Wadley, man. Wadley finished 8-0. Only had 8 football games this year. They finished 8-0, didn't have a close one. I think they'll win it this year. I think Wadley will get over the hump with what they have back there in the backfield. They also have some good teams. Spring Gardens 10-0, Leroy 9-1. We know about them. McKenzie's 9-1. Autauga Academy's 9-1. So some good football teams in 1A too. But I like the Bulldogs of Wadley, man. We got some great opportunities here in our area to see some state champions. Auburn High School, Wadley, Central Clay, Reeltown, all of those have a legit shot at winning their classification, every one of them. So,
Brett, we got some great news yesterday. I'll help close this out here. Got a new sponsor that's going to be part of our Auburn Blitz programming in Bunkers. Alan Brewer and his entire crew over there at Bunkers. If you haven't been in downtown Auburn, it was the first time I'd been in there yesterday. What a beautiful spot, man. Great bar to set up. Got to be. I
didn't feel like I was in Auburn. Did you?
No, it's
like I was in Nashville.
It's a beautiful location. I really prod all of you out there to stop by Bunkers in downtown. We'll be there to have some shows. We're going to be there on Fridays from time to time and bring some guests over from the Auburn community to be part of that. But that's exciting to us, and be looking out here maybe starting in December, seeing more and more information coming across our airwaves about Bunkers in downtown Auburn. We're wide open down here in Dable, Brett. The election wasn't bad for us. I think there's some advertising and marketing budgets that have been turned on after that election. You see Bo and Henry behind me. They are wide open. We've got a lot going on the tables that need to go out in the short term. So if you've got screen printing, embroidery, promotional needs, Lee Apparel here in Dable, we've been around for 20 years. I think we've got some of the best people that you could ask for. And then Sign Source. It's really cut on this week with some big national chains, starting up some projects and getting our installation crew on the books to plan to put some of those up that were on hold, waiting to see how this election would go. So if you got signage needs from start to finish, we can help you here with Sign Source in Dable, Alabama. Lee Apparel and Sign Source. Got some great news also coming down with a new location, hopefully coming to the Auburn area in the short term.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for Friday. And, again, Auburn Blitz will be with you at noon, and then we'll be calling some Benjamin Russell football later tonight at Spanish Fort. So have a great Friday, everybody. Have a great weekend, an extended weekend coming up. You got Veterans Day coming up on Monday, so our salute to all of our veterans out there. Much appreciative of everything that they've done to defend our rights here in the United States. So hope everybody has a great extended weekend. We'll see you later.